So, after a decade, Space Marine 2 has finally been revealed. On December 9th, 2021, during the Game Awards, a trailer was shown bringing in the Ultramarines facing off against Tyranids. And I gotta say, it was awesome. Seeing Warhammer animations is always a pleasant sight to see.
For the Emperor!
Most of the time. Ugh, okay. So I am someone who has been getting really into Warhammer 40k recently. I got fully into the hobby just last year, and since then I've collected a ton of minis. I'm getting closer to having a full 2,000 point Black Templar army. Here's some pictures of them. And I even started paying Necrons. There goes my fucking paycheck. So, for the past year, thanks to friends and YouTubers exposing me to this franchise, I have gotten completely hooked on it. So while I was extremely excited to see this trailer, I can only imagine how happy the people who played the first game were when they saw it. So I thought to myself, I only really played a handful of Warhammer games, most of them are Sigmar related, so why don't I go and play the original Space Marine game and see how it holds up? See what worked, what didn't work, and what they can learn for the sequel. So let's load up our bolters and get into it. So let me start off by saying that this game is really fun. It surprisingly holds up to today's standards. It has a ton of great ideas to the table. Starting off, if you're unaware with how this game plays, it is a third-person shooter hack and slash hybrid. It takes a ton of ideas from other games and mixes them together. The shooting, enemy types, and movement mechanics are very similar to Gears of War, but they mix it with a melee system very reminiscent of the OG God of War games, where your attacks are fast and fierce against a large wave of enemies. They even took some notes from Naughty Dog with how they mix shooting and melee seamlessly throughout the gameplay, and it works way better than it may sound. There are plenty of games that mix shooting and melee, but very few are able to keep them balanced in a way where one doesn't become obsolete, or just having melee be a cool insta-kill. For the first half of this game, the enemies are primarily orcs. Lots and lots of orcs. And they are probably one of the best factions to use as enemies in a video game. There's the classic orc boys that charge you, Shudas, weird boys, who are basically shamans that spawn more orcs, these guys with shields, and slightly bigger guys that take a little bit more slapping than the other orcs. And in terms of enemy variety, it works pretty well to make the combat really fun and fresh. It makes you feel like a Space Marine— oh fuck, IGN's gonna sue me— as you fight off the hordes of orcs in your way. Some of my favorite moments in this game are when massive hordes of orcs are sprinting towards you. You start blasting them with your bolter, taking out as many as you can, but they are getting closer, and you bust out your chainsaw and start swinging. It actually represents the tabletop really well with how the shooting and melee phases work. But then as the game progresses, warp storms start to open up, and chaos demons are suddenly thrown into the mosh pit. This creates battles where orcs and chaos are fighting each other, and you are just thrown into the crossfire. And these battles are so destructive and chaotic, I absolutely love it. Chaos also fights very differently from the orcs. While orcs rush waves to overwhelm you and have gunners that are relatively stationary, Chaos has soldiers that will behave more like real people. They'll take cover and flush you out with grenades. They're a lot more tactical and make you adjust your playstyle. Especially with the Chaos Space Marines that utilize very similar or sometimes even the same equipment that you have. They're meant to be your equal, kind of like the Marauders in Doom. And Bloodletters start to replace the orcs that rush you because, you know, it's Khorne. Blood for the Blood God, right? Now let's talk about the weapons in this game. There are weapons that are absolutely amazing, and weapons that you throw away as soon as you find something better. The first main problem I have with this game is that some of the weapons feel very obsolete. Example, the chainsword. Once you unlock the power axe, there is very little reason to use the chainsword, as the axe just does way more damage and still allows you to use all of your weapons. Compare this to the power hammer, which is actually a pretty fair trade-off when you look at it. It's the most powerful melee weapon, but restricts you to only being able to use 2 firearm weapons. Which means you'll be pretty much unstoppable at close range, but if someone's far away, you're not going to be able to use the right tool to take them down. However, in parts of the games where you have a jetpack, the power hammer is essential for stomping out large waves of enemies and ground pounding and just completely decimating them. Also, dude, the jetpack parts in this game are so fucking fun. Flying around crushing people into paste with a hammer, it is so fucking fun. These people made Thor gameplay better than the Avengers game. What the fuck were you idiots doing? So then we got the guns. They're pretty good. You got your standard stuff like bolters and bolt pistols, then you've got the Melta, which basically acts like a shotgun with dragon's breath ammo. Purge the fucking heretics! There's also plasma guns and... I'm more of a bullet guy, but they're alright. There's the Stalker Bolter, which... it's like the Chainsword, it's hopelessly outmatched by the Las Cannon. The Vengeful Launcher, though, oh, this thing is so much fun to use. The only thing better than explosive is explosive that sticks to people. You can stick 6 explosives to someone and just blow their ass to the sky. You can rip off turrets and walk around with them. Wonder where they got that from. And then there's the Twin Bolter. Basically, take a bolter and an R97 from Titanfall 2, give them some privacy, and this is the result. And it's fucking insane. Now, while it is a little unfortunate that there are some weapons that are blatantly better than the others, and after you get far enough in the game, there's no real reason to use the Chainsword or Stalker Bolter, the game still carries itself really well. Each level feels unique and keeps the gameplay engaging from beginning to the credits. And that's all I can really ask for this game. Then there's the story. I won't go too deep into it since it's nothing too complicated. Basically, you're Captain Titus of the Ultramarines, you're sent to this planet to stop an orc invasion. As you move on, the orc invasion turns into a chaos invasion, and shit hits the fan, and you gotta purge these heretics. Pick up that bolter and shoot these filthy degenerates. Now, the thing I do like about this story is just how much of the 40k lore is implemented in both the main story and in the background. Yes, you do play as the Ultramarines, and for those of you who have been in the 40k fanbase for a while, you're probably sick of seeing these blue smurfs everywhere. It's like seeing this fucking rat everywhere. But there are cameos from other Space Marine factions as well. Blood Ravens make an appearance, Black Templars come in, and even other Imperial factions too, like the Imperial Guard, which is natural because we gotta see our main boys dying and everything. And we also see some interesting stuff with the Inquisition as well. This game is the perfect introduction to 40k. The main story is simple but offers a lot of background lore to find through NPCs and audio logs, and it introduces the concepts in a streamlined way. So yeah, I highly recommend this game today. It's good fun that doesn't take too long to finish, and it's a great window into the 40k universe. Now let's talk about the sequel, which I am honestly really stoked for. There's a lot of great elements in the first game that they can expand on, and there's also a lot to improve. What should they improve? Well, the AI is definitely one thing. The AI in the first game is... not great. And hell, some of the anime AI is pretty dumb too. I think a game like this can really benefit from having squad commands. In the first game, there are a lot of times where you're just doing everything on your own. And while there were moments where Titus was alone, this follows over into parts where you are with a squad as well. I think it would help the game drastically if there were some simple squad commands and if they improved the AI to make the battles more of a team effort. And I get it, Space Marines are very deadly and capable of killing tons of enemies single-handedly, but it would be nice to see a more tactical side of things. Because in the lore, these guys are a team. They're brothers.
Avenge me, brother! Brother, avenge me!
And the gameplay can easily go the distance to reflect that. It doesn't have to be anything overly complicated like Rainbow Six, but being able to highlight an enemy for squad mates to focus on, kind of like Spec Ops, can help make the squad feel more useful. From what they've shown, we're going to be fighting Tyranids, and I think that's great. They're the perfect enemies to go up against because they're simple, and they work out really well as enemies, just like orcs. They're big bugs that eat people, what else do you need to know? While orcs were the primary focus in the beginning of the first Space Marine game, Chaos showed its head and threw corn demons at us, and Chaos Space Marines. So it wouldn't be surprising if this would have happened again. And what Chaos God would they be? I wouldn't be opposed if it was Korn again, since it's been a while since he was the main villain in a game. It would be cool to see Zeech come in, maybe do some mindfuck sequence. That's always fun. Or they could just do Nurgle again, because every fucking game has to have Nurgle in it. Something else I hope they improve is the melee weapons. I would love to see an overhaul of the chainsword and power axe. Maybe make the chainsword better for crowd control, while the axe is better for singling out tougher enemies/bosses. Hell, if you're really filling up for it, maybe there can be an upgrade system for the weapons like in Doom. Have the player construct a better, deadlier chainsword to purge these heretics. If you can't tell, I fucking love chainswords. It touches my barbaric heart whenever I see someone get ripped apart by them.
Off his angels!
It's so beautiful, isn't it? One final thing I would love to see in this game is that since we're fighting Tyranids and they're a Horde army, I would love to see a Horde mode. I would love to see something like Red Dead Undead Nightmares Horde mode, because that's something we haven't seen in a while. You have to kill the wave in a certain amount of time, and if you run out of time, you go into sudden death. It's not like Rockstar is going to port their decade-old game to PC anytime soon. But regardless of what happens, I'm pretty excited for what this game is going to be. I'm glad this series is able to continue, and I'm pretty excited to see what happens. With this and Darktide coming out, it's a pretty good year to be a Warhammer fan.